Great evening, guys. It's me, Arlene J. Ramsey, CEO and founder of Everyone Let's Talk, also your favorite self-wealth mentor. This segment, we will be discussing bullying at school, the school bully, and how it affects the bullied. Before I get started on that, however, I would like to discuss the school situation here in the city, or let me just say the state of New Jersey, and of course several states going across. Charter school system versus the public school system. I have a few things I want to say, or I would like you guys to think about. Have you guys thought about getting a handle on your children? For instance, the bullying that take place in school. Are you parents on top of the characteristics and the characters of your children? Now, I ask that because you have children bullying other children in school. Just a few years ago, a high school teacher from Irvington High was jumped by a few students, high school students. You have students who threaten teachers, threaten other students, threaten other administrative people at school. Teachers are afraid to teach students. Grades are low. Students are disrespectful. They're misbehaving. You know, the school system is just out of control. So I ask you parents, what are you doing to help the school system out in handling your children? Why is it that the school system is out of control? And why is it that you think the school is responsible for making your children act in line? If your children have no respect at home, or if you don't instill the right morals, the right characteristics, the right self-esteem, the right teachings in your child or children, what makes you think that any official at any school can teach your child anything? What makes you think that? What makes you think that your child will listen? Now, I ask that because this is just completely out of control. Now, I understand you guys have a lot of gripe with the teachers, and I understand that some teachers don't care. They're just there for a paycheck. But here's something that I want you to think about. Don't you think that those teachers have their own personal lives? They have husbands, they have children, they have the same type of life that you have. And they have to go home and instill proper teachings to their children, and then come to school the next day and deal with your children that are completely out of control. Let me say something to you. If your children do not respect anything you have to say at home, or if they're being brought up in a home where no one has respect for boundaries, and there's domestic violence going on, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, or psychological abuse, which includes emotional and mental abuse, your children will go to school and act out, and they will not listen to what anyone has to say. Either they will go to school and bully other children because they're frustrated at home, or they will become a target because they go to school the next day wearing the frustration all on their face and the frustration in their posture, so it makes them a target. There's several characteristics of bullies and several characteristics of the child that is being bullied. But if you guys want a list or some sessions on that, of course, give me a call at 973-855-2333. But I would like to know, how many more children must take their life before any one of you take this with a seriousness? How many more children must take their life? I don't have children, but it breaks my heart every time I hear that a child have taken their life. Because it's not just the fact that they took their life today. I go back to the fact of the distress that this child has been under for them to make that decision to take their life. That has to be a horrific way to live. They don't even exist. They're just walking zombies. And I am disappointed at you parents for not realizing that your child was troubled. I am not buying that you didn't know your child was being bullied. I'm not buying it. I do know that some children don't tell their parents, but you can tell if your child is having a bad day or not. You know, your child is going to come home looking sad or just being frustrated or not being themselves. There's going to be something that's going on with that child that will let you know or signal that your child is, something's not going quite right with your child. Do you ask, well, how's your day? Do you open and honestly want to know what's going on with your child's life? Do you ask them what's going on in school? Do you communicate with your children? Or do you just boss them around as soon as they get home? Take off your school clothes, put on your play clothes, do your homework, wash the dishes. Is that the type of parent you are? Now understand that they have to do their chores, they have to do their homework, and they must abide by rules. Your rules, it's your house, they have to do what you say. But are you concerned with the emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being of your children? I would have to say the answer is no. Because if you were, you would have picked up on the fact that something is not quite right with your children. You have to pick that up. And this is for the children that is being bullied. Because I was a child that was bullied, and I've seen plenty of children who were bullied, and I see that their personality leaves them. They're no longer the person that we know them to be when they first started school. Their personality is starting to strip away from them. They're no longer happy. They no longer want to crack jokes. They no longer want to be in cliques. They choose to want to be alone. They're always walking with their head down, always looking sad, always looking like they're far away. They're thinking. What are they thinking about? We just don't know. But there's always something. And I was a child, and I was able to see that in other children. And I was a bullied child, and also a sexually molested child, and verbally abused child, spiritually and mentally abused child. I've had abuse from all angles. I had no way out, but I was still able to realize when another child was troubled. How is that? Why is that? Are you telling me that I had more wisdom as a child than some of you do as parents? But then some of you same parents turn around and say that children don't know anything and they need to just listen to everything adults say. But you adults have the slightest idea of what's going on with your kids. And you have the slightest idea if your child is a bully or not. Or maybe you just don't care. Because maybe you are a bully. Or someone in your family is a bully. It's disturbing and it's disgusting. And aside all, it's very, very, very heartbreaking. Our children are our future. And if they're taking their lives today, who are we going to have to lead us tomorrow? Who's going to make the change that this world needs to see if our youths have no reason to live today? Yet for all, you just live on. You watch Scandal. You're into the haves and the have-nots. Oh, I love that show. You know, I do. That's my favorite. I watch it. But you're into basketball wives. You're into everything else but your children. Everyone else's business, gossip. But you don't have a handle on your children. And you are not helping out the school system with anything. But then yet for all, you parents are complaining about everything about the school system. Why is the schools closing? What's up with the charter schools? What's up with this and what's up with that? But neither one of you are coming up with resolve or saying, you know what, let's partner with these schools and find out what these schools need and what they need from us. They can't even get you to a... Alright guys, we got cut off, but the last recording left off with me saying they can't even get the parents to a PTA meeting. What's the percentage of parents who attend PTA meetings? How many of you attend? How many of you just on your day off pop into school and surprise your teacher and your child just to see what's going on? How many of you keep a close relationship with the school to make sure you're abreast and on top of what is going on with your child in school? How many do that? How many of you check your children's schoolwork? Why do they have low test scores? Now, granted, I don't live under a rock. I know you have a life, you know. I know some of you parents are working more than one jobs and you have it very hard. I understand that. But here's what I know. Your children did not ask to be born. You brought them into this world. Whether you planned to procreate or not, it was your choice to give birth. It was your choice to give birth. And with that choice comes great responsibility. And with that being said, although I don't have children, and some people are going to come at me and say it's easier for you to say, I can care less. But I don't want to hear your pity party, and I don't care to hear about your excuses. You made the choice to give birth and bring children into this world. It is your responsibility to make sure you provide that child with the best. And when I say with the best, I mean the best that you have. And the best that you have doesn't mean I have 4 and 5 jobs, or I have 2 jobs, and you know what? You guys are just going to have to fend for yourself. Because you knew that you were monetarily poor before you brought these children into this world. So why is it that you are in a predicament where you have to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet? Couldn't you have maybe just stopped at 1? These are decisions and these are the choices that you make. So these things I'm throwing out at you so you can realize the choices that you've made, and which is why you're living the life that you are living. Now, the life you are living is very difficult, and some of you don't really have the time to give your children. That's what you tell yourself. Because you're working so much, you have so much going on, and the little time you have, you barely have time to unwind and relax and gather your thoughts together. Then here it is, you have children to take care of. You should have thought about that before you procreated and brought these children into the world. So I don't feel sorry for you. Because many of you parents who are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, when your children are home or with whoever they're with, some of your children are being sexually abused, physically abused, verbally abused. They are not receiving love or respect because you are not home. And this is why they're going out in the school system and acting the way they are acting. This is why they have failing grades. And this is not the entire situation. So this is not for all children. So please, people, don't come at me and say it's not for all, because I know it's not for all. But it's for many children. It's for a good percentage of children. That they are coming from some type of abusive situation and they can't focus. There's so much going on. They are not being respected. So they're not giving anybody any respect. And all of that is things that you could prevent. Are you living above your means? Do you need to have Nikes and Jordans for your children? Do you need to buy Prada and Gucci? All these things that you are into, which costing you money that you don't need. Those jobs that you are working to take care of that sickening habit, which is keeping you away from your children, maybe you can start to learn how to do without. I don't have children, but I buy sneakers, and this is even when I worked. You know, I'm unable to spend money like that now because I'm an entrepreneur, and I don't have as many clients as I would like to have. But even when I do, I will still buy my champions from Payless Shoe Source. I get my sneakers from Payless. I could care less who laugh at me. Every now and then I have a few name brand, expensive name brand, but I will not spend that type of money on sneakers or on anything to put on my feet. Not all the time, but some of you parents do, and you can't afford it. And the jobs that you take, and the time that you take to bring income in your home takes away from your children, from that time your children need. Hence, you have the slightest idea of what's going on with them. Hence, you can't help them, and you don't know how to help the school system. That's not good, because those children are your responsibility. Those are your babies. Children don't know what the world gives. They don't know what the world gives. It is up to you to protect those children, and you are failing them. You're failing me, because I have to make this recording because children, these babies are dying. They're dying. And all I can watch is parents give a lame excuse. No. Alright, no. So what I want to tell you guys about your children being bullied. Document everything that's going on. I don't care what is happening. You and your child is to document everything your child is experiencing at school. Whoever your child spoke to, whether it's the teacher, whether it's the guidance counselor, whether it's the principal, I don't care who it is, that person needs to be documented. Because that person is responsible to make sure your child is okay. And if they are not doing what they are supposed to do, they have to answer for that. That needs to be documented. You need to make sure that you are on top of your child's emotional and mental well-being. Maybe take your child to go see a doctor or some type of professional. Make sure they're okay. If that professional tell you that your child is suffering from depression, anxiety, or whatever the case may be, that has to be documented. This is war, and you need to protect your children. It is your job to make sure your child gets the respect, the love, and protection that your child needs. Document everything. There are anti-bully laws that exist, and you need to hold that school accountable to abide by the rules and regulations of those laws. The school system is not to dismiss you and your child. Not from this point moving forward. Not from this point moving forward. Alright. If you need strategy and help with that, do give me a call. Alright. Do give me a call. My number is 973-855-2333. I will help you out with that. I'm not going to put too much of that information on YouTube, but just note that if you need help and you don't know what to do, I'm here for you. Okay? For the rest of you parents, I suggest you get on the ball and you start getting into what's going on with your child. Just a few weeks ago, I heard a child from Linden, New Jersey hung himself in his room. He had an attic bedroom and he hung himself in his room because he was bullied at school. For being, I think he was either gay or bisexual. I'm not quite sure what the case is with that, but he hung himself. And I was just distraught. You know, I had to hold my strength and composure together for the kids, you know, because I had to be their strength when they brought this news to me. But in my heart, and I know I'm bullied. I mean, not I'm bullied. I know I was a bullied child, so I know how that feels. I know how that feels. And you parents have to be, your children need to be prepared to fight. Now, I've been told that if the child, regardless if the child was bullied or not, if your child fights, they're going to get suspended for 10 days and yada, yada, yada. I'd rather my child kick butt than to hang themselves. Or to walk around in school and being depressed. No, we're not going to do that. This is war. This is war. And your child needs to be safe. Your child needs to be prepared to defend themselves, and you need to be prepared to back your child up. But you also need to make sure that you have good character and your child has good character. You want to make sure that you don't cross boundaries, that you're not disrespecting other people. Your child is not doing the same. You want to make sure that your child is going to school to do what your child is supposed to do. Hi guys, we got cut off again. I left off with me saying you want to make sure that your child is respectful of themselves and others. Reason why is, okay, you know, no one deserves to be bullied, but at the same time you do not want to present documents, the anti-bullying law, things you have documented to the school system if your child has taken part in being a bully, because then everything that you have discussed and documented might be null and void. All right, so you want to make sure that your child is not participating in any of that. And the only way you're going to do that is find out through your child and find out from the school system. You need to make sure that you are absolutely on top of the job when it comes to that. And you need to leave no stone unturned, and you need to take nothing lightly. Everything needs to be taken with a seriousness. This is not a game. All right. And as I've mentioned in the previous recording, all children who bully or are bullied do not come from abusive backgrounds. I recently used to work with a person who takes good care of their son, but the person was a bully. The person was the type who was very manipulative, who was very intimidating as far as to try to get what he wanted to get out of life, to get ahead in life. And he was teaching his son how to be the same way. You know, the son learned that behavior from the father. And this child it doesn't come from an abusive background, but he comes from a background of watching his father treat people in that way. So that goes back to what I always say. Adults and parents teach children how to be. You know, you say do one thing, but children are going to do what you do. So if you are a bully, if you don't respect people, if you don't deal life with a balanced hand, your child is going to look at that as that being the way to go. And your child is going to go to school and treat children the way your child see you treat adults in your family and other adults whom you call friends, business partners, and associates. So you want to be very careful of your character. Now I know that this may seem a little harsh, but this is a dose of reality. It's a dose of reality. A lot of what goes on in that school system and what your children do is indicative of or reflective of what you do. And then some children, that is just their characteristics. Some people have that type of characteristic. You may not be that type of parent, but your child may be that type of child. And I know some parents say, well, you know, when children are young, you know, it's hard to know their characteristics and that it's hard to judge them as such. No, it is not. You see a child's characteristics. You see a child's characteristics from the time they're about 4 to 6 months. Their personality starts to show. But the thing is that people overlook it. When they're babies, you overlook it because you say they're cute and they don't know what they're doing. That's not necessarily true. If you have more than 2 children, remember back your children when they were 4 to 6 months. And remember their personalities. Their personalities were not all the same. It was distinctive. You knew the difference. You knew that, you know, some people could tell you, yeah, this baby was like this. This baby was a good baby. They never cried. They slept well. That's part of their personality. That's part of who they are. And then you have some children who are always crying, always cranky. That's also part of their personality. They may be the one to grow up to be self-absorbed. They need all the attention. They're not, of course, they're not going to cry tears when they get older, but they're going to be the ones throwing temper tantrums. They don't get their way. Guess what? They're going to bully somebody to get their way. They're going to throw a temper tantrum because they want their way. It is up to you to pay attention to your children's characteristics. If your children are at home, don't ask for permission for things, just take things. If they're always picking on other siblings, those sort of things are signs of bullying. If you see that sort of behavior at home, you ought to know that they're going to go to school and do the same thing. You know, there's no on and off switch. So be very mindful, again, of your children's characteristics and be very mindful of your characteristics. Now I know that's going to be a hard thing, as I said again, for the adults to do, because a lot of times we don't know who we are. You know, that requires some self-awareness. We don't know who we are. But here's a tip. If you are always getting your way from people, or getting your way at the expense of other people, regardless of their situation or not. If you don't care if it's always your way or the highway, or if you always must get your way and you always get your way, chances are you may be a narcissist, and chances are you may be a bully. If it's always your way, if you don't care to compromise, and I'm not talking about with your children, because most parents will compromise with their kids. That means if you want to eat out, you know, at McDonald's, you're not just going to have McDonald's for yourself, you're going to buy McDonald's for your children. I'm just giving an example. That's a compromise. What I mean is, if you don't know how to or don't want to compromise with other adults that are in your life, and it's always your way, and you have to get your way, and it has to be this, and it has to be what I say, and you harp on everything, chances are you are a bully. And chances are that's what your child see. You don't have to harp on everything. You don't have to always get your way. And when you always want to get your way, what is it that you are looking for to always get? Is it because just because you say it, it has to be done because you say it, and you're not going to let anyone rest until you get your way? That's not a good way. Because you don't live in this world by yourself. You live with other people. And the other people who are around you, including your children, are watching your behavior. Now, when they see that, that's what they go to school and do to other children. That's what they go to school and do to their teacher. Because you are showing them that you don't respect other people. You cross boundaries. And when you cross boundaries and you always get your way, and people are afraid to stand up to you, your child look at it as, wow, that's the way to go. No one stands up to mom, or no one stands up to dad. They always get their way and they're afraid. That's the way to go. I want to make the world afraid of me, just like mommy and daddy make people afraid of them. I want my way. It's my way or the highway. You do it. You teach your children how to do it, and that's what they will do, go to school and do. That's what they will do. Now, when your child already has this system built within them, how do you think that a teacher is going to unprogram your child? If they're already programmed by you, and you're their ultimate teacher because you're their mom, you gave birth to them, you're their guardian, you take care of them, you feed them. How do you think an outsider is going to reprogram your child? Be careful of the programs that you're downloading into your system. Be very careful. Because again, you don't live in this world by yourself. You and your children have to go and interact with other people in the world. And when you are not respectful of boundaries, when you lack empathy, when you can care less about someone else's experience or what someone else is going through, and everything you get is at the expense of other people, you ought to know that you are a menace to society, and your child is coming to be a menace to society. That's just how it is. Because you guys are usually the people who bully your co-workers. Your children go to school and bully other children, and then your children grow up to be adults who bully co-workers. It's a vicious cycle. And it's a cycle based off of narcissistic characteristics. Plain and simple. There's no other way for me to put it. I'm not going to be nice about it. This is something that I have to say, and this is something that you guys have to hear, because this is what's going on. It's what's happening. And if it's not narcissism, you just have some people who don't like certain characteristics in other people, and then they think... Hi guys, I got cut off again. This should be the last one, but I left off with saying some people or children, even people, don't like certain characteristics in other people, and they have this program within them that if they don't like a person, they make it their business to try to punish a person. If they don't like certain ways or way a person do things, they want to put their hands on a person, or they want to make a person feel pain for who they are. That right there in itself is nothing but ignorance, and that is something that shows. It shows your child can't hide that. That is something that they do at home, and that is definitely something that you can teach them on how not to do, because no one has the right to put anyone in pain just because they don't like certain ways or characteristics about a person. Because remember, we all have our ways, and no one deserves to be punished for who they are. However, if there's some ways about us that are not liking to each other or to the people we live with, communication and, how can I say, education about each other's characteristics and who we are will help us out as people a lot. And that will get rid of a lot of the abuse that goes on behind closed doors. A lot of it is based off of ignorance. It's not always, you know, people who are narcissistic and people who just want to see people in pain. It is also based off of ignorance. There's just, have you, just a question, have you ever worked or lived with someone who just do things or say things in a certain way that you just can't stand, and sometimes it makes you feel like to just smack them? If you can answer yes to that, then you can understand the people who do it. Some of us, we say it, but we have a barrier. We know that's not cool to do, and we may talk about it. But then there's some people who don't have that barrier. If they feel that way, they're coming in and they're going to smack you just because they don't like the way you do or say something. And now this person who's getting smacked every time they do or say what the other person don't like, have the slightest idea of why they're getting smacked. Because you're just smacking them. That's ignorance. So again, as parents, that is something that you can change from home. Because if you allow that to happen at home and you don't educate your child or find out why your child think it's okay to be like that, your child is going to go to school and do that to other children. Plain and simple. All right. And there's no way a teacher or a school official can actually completely stop your child from doing what they are doing. Because they're not your child's parent. They're not that parent. All right, you still have to reinforce that. That's why you should be the liaison. That's why you should be in cahoots. You should be partnered with the school. You should know exactly what's going on and help them out. You guys should help each other so you can put a handle on this. That is about the bully. The first 3 recordings. Let me talk about the children who get bullied. For those who haven't come from abusive backgrounds, because I talked about children who come from abusive backgrounds who've gotten bullied in the previous recording. But here we're going to finish off with children who do not come from abusive background who manage to get bullied, are children who don't know how to take up for themselves. All of us are not born with this program in us that tells us, fight, take care of yourself. All of us aren't like that. Some of us are just cool, very mild people. And for the children who don't know how to defend themselves, those are children that are targeted. Because when you look at them, you can tell. You know, every once in a while people may you know, get caught up with a little bit of mistaken identity. I can say that about me, because I definitely, people have told me I look like I can't hurt a fly. I just, you know, some people have, but this type of look I have, this certain type of innocence. I just don't look like I'm mean. I don't look like I can hurt anybody. Typically, the children who do not know how to defend themselves have that type of look. They don't know how to stick up for themselves, whether it's verbally or physically. They just don't have a fight within them. If you have a child like that, you would have to teach your children how to defend themselves. You would have to empower your child, because you ought to know this world, people don't care. If your child don't know how to defend themselves, your child is a target when they go to school. You went to school, you know, you didn't just become an adult and had children. You went to school, you saw this. So let's remember when you were a child. Remember when you were a child, and remember back the kids that were targeted. If your child fit that type of description, you have to empower your child. You have to make sure your child is no one's victim. Also, there are children with different deformities when they were born. You know, they may be handicapped, they may have problems with speech, they may, you know, whatever the case may be. Those are usually children that are targeted as well. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. You can look at a child and see if that child will be targeted. Empower that child. You would have to empower that child, give them a way of defending themselves, because people will come at them. Don't just put your child out there, let them be sheep and have the wolves devour them. You have to give them the armor. You have to do it. Or else, if they're not armored up, they'll go from one extreme to the other. They'll go from being very violent, or they'll be the kid that end up taking their lives. And then you have, no, let me not be so extreme, because you have children who don't take their lives, but they live in a state of depression. Now they don't want to go to school. You know, they'll cut school. You'll drop them off and they'll find a back door to go out of. They don't want to eat. They have a stomach virus. They throw up. There's going to be all kinds of things that your child is going through, and it's nothing. It's distress. It's emotional, mental, and physical distress. So that's not healthy for your child to go through that and experience that at that young age. All of this bullying and all of this stuff that goes on takes away from your child's ability to dream. When children dream, they dream to create reality, or they should be dreaming to create reality. But when they're living a life like this, they actually dream to escape reality. It takes away your child's ability to be creative, innovative, come up with new ideas, or just be themselves, be vibrant. Some of these children are great. You'll be surprised at the ideas that they have, but they're unable to blossom because they're being put down. And even the children who bully don't create. They aren't innovative. They aren't creative. You know why? Because so much of their energy is going into bullying other children. Now that's like their job. That's a hobby. So that usually when you find something that you're great at, you usually have a one-track mind about it, and you don't want to do anything else. And that's what happens with a child who bully as well. When they know that they're great at being a bully, that child doesn't create. That child doesn't dream to create anything or do anything to make a substantial difference in this world, because their energy is involved in bullying people and putting people and children in distress. So it is actually terrible for both the bully and the bullied. But I am very concerned with the child who is the bullied. We have to empower those children, because children in that situation, their self-esteem drops. Their self-esteem drops. They think they're worthless. They think they're nothing. They think they can never make a difference in this world. And that's why they take their lives. Because they think they don't matter. And they do. They do matter. They matter. And shame on you for not empowering your children. You don't have an excuse. And I understand how hard and difficult life may be. But again, as I said in the previous recording, you are responsible for making sure your child's well-being is taken care of. And if you're not doing that, you are failing your child, and you are failing this world. Because your child may have something very great within them that this world may need in years to come. And you failed the world by not giving them and presenting them with your child, the great, because your child is suffering. We have to put an end to all of that. Put an end to all of that. Again, if you need help, I am here. I am here. I can tell you how to beat a system. I can tell you how to beat a system and still remain in peace. To God be the glory. Many people don't think that my life was the way it was. But you know why? God in my heart. Spirituality. I know that I overcame all of that. There is no need for me to walk around